Unyielding, Vikramarka went back to the tree, took down the dead body from the tree, put it on his shoulder, buried it in silence as usual and walked away. Then Bethala in the corpse said, "Raja, it is surprising to anyone that you are lying here in a terrifying graveyard at midnight, to fulfill the work you have done with all possible perseverance. But can you be satisfied when you have achieved the result of all your hard work? Or, like the princess of Swarnapuri, she will let go of what she has achieved foolishly and inappropriately. Because hard work and perseverance are enough to achieve certain tasks. However, it takes wisdom and worldliness to experience the results. As an example of this, I will tell the story of the princess of Swarnapuri, without knowing the effort. Listen," he continued saying. Once upon a time, the hilly areas of the eastern seaboard were ravaged by incessant rains and gale-force winds. At that time, one of the most ancient Shiva temples was revealed in one of the collapsed hillsides. This news came to the knowledge of the Swarnapuri king Suravarma, who ruled the area. Suravarma's daughter Salakshana was a great devotee of Shiva. She, with Father, we are lucky to have that ancient Shiva temple, which was exposed to the storm, very close to our capital. I will rebuild a magnificent temple of Lord Shiva there in 4 to 5 months under my supervision," said Amitanandanga. Suravarma gave his consent. A good Muhurtana Shiva temple restoration program started. Salakshana spent most of the day at that hill instructing the workmen and sculptors. One day, while resting in the afternoon, she heard the most beautiful melody from a distance. Everyone is busy with their work. She went towards the singing. Some sheep were grazing in a pasture. An old man was sitting under a tree with his eyes closed and playing the murli. Salakshana was amazed by his beauty. After finishing the song, the young man opened his eyes and was shocked to see Salakshana standing in front of him. She smiled a little and said, "I am a princess. I liked your Murali song. What is your name?" She asked. "My name is Govindaswamy," said the young man, bowing to Salakshana and walking away with the sheep. Since then Salakshana used to secretly meet Govindaswamy every day and sing her favorite songs on Murali. Govindaswamy used to teach her to play murli. She taught him how to behave civilly and how to talk to others. As the month went by, the two became very close. One day, after playing the murli for a while, Salakshana developed a whooping cough. Seeing that, Govindaswamy said to her, "Near here is an ant who I have known since childhood. The well water behind her hut is as sweet as coconut water," he said, taking Salakshana to the grandmother's hut beside the path at the bend of the hill. Salakshana was surprised to see the house surrounded by green trees and flowers. The grandmother, who came out of the hut after hearing the sound of footsteps, saw Salakshana and asked, "Who are you?" "Don't think I have seen Ma Govinda's beautiful beauty recently," she said with a hearty smile. Hearing this, Salakshana felt ashamed. As Govindaswamy said, Ava went into the hut, brought a pot of water and gave it to Salakshana. Salakshana drank the water and said to her, "The smell of sweet flowers that I have never smelled in front of your hut, Grandma. I am very comfortable here," she said. "It's the fragrance of the flowers." Saying this, the mother picked up the flowers that had fallen down and picked up the garland and rubbed it on Salakshana's head very happily. Then Govindaswamy followed her to the bend of the hill, got down there and drove away the sheep. Salakshana decided that if she was going to get married on that day, she would marry Govindaswamy. King Suravarma came to her shrine in the evening and said, "Mother, Manadatu, the prince of Udayagiri, has sent a present to marry you. It remains to be seen whether he is suitable in all respects. Therefore, I sent an invitation to stay as our guest for 2 days. He will come to the city tomorrow evening," he said. At that time, Salakshana did not have the courage to bring up the mention of Govindaswamy to his father. The next afternoon Salakshana told Govindaswamy the matter and said, "I will please that Prince Manadatu. If he hastily and gives his word to him, then there will be no going back on it," he said gloomily. "Let's ask you for advice, Pada," Govindaswamy said. Both went to Avagudi's. Salakshana told what happened to Abba and said, "My father will not deny my wish. I have faith that Govindaswamy will help my father in every way. However, I do not have the courage to take Govindaswamy to my father," she said. Ava thought for a while and said, "There is nothing for us to be afraid of or to be upset about. Govindaswamy, not as Govindaswamy, but as Prince Manadatta, will go and meet your father. Don't you believe that Govinda will be your father?" "Now, the story has a happy ending," he said. To reach the city of Udayagiri Prince, there is no other route than the hilly route. When he arrived in front of his hut, he explained to Govindaswamy what to do. As expected, Manadatta arrived at the place in the evening on a white horse. Ava confronted him and said, Nayana, Nagana. Listen to me. Have your meal and go, she said, standing in the way of the horse and pretending to be sad. Hearing this, Manadatta was very surprised and said, Wow. I'm not what you want me to be, Manadatani, Prince of Udayagiri. He said and got down from the horse. Govindaswamy, who was there, took Manadatta to the side and said, Aya. Nagana is the only grandson of this grandmother. He is a soldier of the king. Many years ago a neighboring king invaded this kingdom. While listening to Dandora as the king, Nagana, who was eating, ran outside with a sword hanging on the wall, not listening to his mother's pleas. He died in the war. Ava was shocked. You must be like me. If you serve and eat food now, you will be very satisfied in this old age, he said, making up a story. Jolly and compassionate Manadatta immediately put his hand on Ava's shoulder and said, Ava, Nanakali is burning. Put rice, he said. Ava immediately served him rice and curries. Manadatta sat down on the hidden bed after finishing his meal with satisfaction. Grandma brought him a pot of hot milk. Manadatta fell asleep after drinking that milk. Then the grandmother said to Govindaswamy, I have mixed the juice of some herbs in that milk. The prince will not regain consciousness until tomorrow evening. You and he should wear his clothes and go to the palace on a horse, it said. Govindaswamy entered the palace as Manadatta. King Suravarma was impressed by the beautiful upright form of Govindaswamy. He said to his daughter, You are lucky, mother. Your future husband is like a moldy cupid, she said, shaking her head. Salakshana Parmananda became patient. Suravarma made arrangements for a boat trip in the river the next evening. Before leaving for the vihara, a maid Salakshana came into the temple and said, Mother, an old man has brought a garland of flowers for you. She insists on giving it to you herself, she said. While listening to the compliments, the visitor realized that the old lady was sent inside with the attendant. While coming, Princess! The prince had a burning fever. He did not regain consciousness despite the antidote. You should take the court doctor and come immediately, she said worriedly. He sent his wife and met Govindaswamy while walking in Salakshana Park and said, I will not come for a boat trip. I am going to my grandmother's house with the doctor, she said. It is surprising that you quarrel with that prince who has high fever and is not conscious. Anyway, it would be fine if you didn't come for the cruise, said Govindaswamy dejectedly. Salakshana left the place in silence and went to the grandmother's hut, taking the physician with her. The doctor applied some ointment to the unconscious Manadatta's forehead and said, The patient will regain consciousness in an hour or two, there is nothing to fear. Then swallow these 2 pills, he said to Salakshana. Later, he found all this happening strange and suspicious, so he went to King Suravarma and explained the whole matter. Soon Suravarma came to Ava's hut with a small entourage and the royal physician. At that time Manadatta regained some consciousness and spoke slowly. Salakshana is listening attentively while wiping her tears. Suravarma looked at his daughter as if what is it? Taking her father's hand and taking her away from the entourage, she said that what had happened was like a pearl and said, On my instigation, Govindaswamy came to our house in the guise of a prince. The prince fell suddenly and got stuck here, it said. As Suravarma liked Govindaswamy in every way, he did not get angry with his daughter and said, Such hasty decisions do not always yield good results. First you apologize to Manadatta. I have no objection to you marrying Govindaswamy, he said. Sorry, Dad. I realized that my first decision was made in haste. I apologize to Manadatta. But it is not just to marry Govindaswamy, to marry Manadatta. My future husband will be the king of this kingdom in future. Is not public welfare and state defense more important than anything else? That is typical. Bethala told this story. In the beginning, Princess Salakshana was afraid that her father would not like her to marry Govindaswamy. But, the father expressed his full will to marry him. However, isn't it foolish and inappropriate for her to reject Govindaswamy and marry Manadatta? If you know the answer to these doubts and don't say it, your head will explode, he said. Vikramarkudu said, Govindaswamy is self-centered and selfish. Manadatta even postponed his journey to the palace to satisfy an old woman with no face. Based on this, it is known that he has a heart of pity for the suffering of others. This is the main characteristic of a public ruler. And Govindaswamy's mentality is completely opposite to this. He was unmoved knowing that Manadatta was sick and unconscious because of the story he had concocted for his own selfishness. Moreover, the princess asked Salakshana to accompany him on a boat trip. Salakshana realizes how much trouble the people will suffer if such a selfish, kind, and jolly person becomes her husband and then becomes the king of the country. Hence, she rejects Govindaswamy and marries Manadatu. It is a very wise situational decision, he said. When the king was thus silenced, Bethala disappeared with the corpse and returned to the forest. Fictional. Source, by Macharaju Kamesvara Rao.